altered states of consciousness, and the creative process.
At least for me, in my head, there are multiple stages of art. There's like the concept stage, there's the creation stage, there's the refining stage, and there's the publishing stage. I'm not like holding those hardcore to like, those are the official stages. I just made those up right now. But your conception stage is you just thinking of the idea of, I'm going to go visual art with this stuff. You find a large piece of fabric, and you're like, I want to do something on that piece of fabric. You have to be in a certain state to decide, I want to do something on that piece of fabric instead of on that piece of cardboard or on this piece of wood or on this canvas. You have to decide what medium you're going to use. And your state in that current moment affects what you're going to use. Then there's the actual creation where you're actually laying down things, pigments, bleach, markers on whatever item you chose. And that's where you make the structure of your picture. It doesn't need to be perfect. You're just laying out this idea of what it's supposed to be. Then you have the next stage of you touch it up. You make it actually look refined, make it polished, make it look nice. And then after that is the stage of, okay, now what do I do with this? Where does it go in the world? For me personally, every one of those stages is a slightly different, at least for the best art that I feel I've ever made, each one of those steps has a different level of sobriety, whether it's a different substance or a different level of sleep deprivation or a different level of caffeine, or if I'm on Adderall or something. But I prefer different things for different stages of creation.
Almost like there's a science to it.
Yeah, and like you can start to work it out with your own self of what you like, but I'm expose myself, children, close your ears. This involves doing things you shouldn't do. I knew I wanted a drawing on my bass amp. I knew I wanted some sort of art on it. I was totally sober, told myself my bass amp is going to be my canvas. I am one day going to draw on this. That's what's going to happen. Then I took psilocybin and mindlessly drew on my bass amp. And I had this whole story in my head as I drew. Like I was building like a whole narrative about like a war between two factions as I was drawing. You can't tell that whole narrative from what you see on it, but it was in my head. And so that was the putting pigment on a canvas stage. Then, like 2 days later, I went up and touched up some of the lines that weren't quite good because I just laid the bass line. So a little more sober state, touched it up. And then in my casual whatever, when I play music, yeah, that's when it gets displayed, is playing shows. And that's like kind of the essence to me of how I like to do things. In total sobriety, decide what you're doing, then wait until you're in a state you like, or a state that you've personally established is good for you, whether it's super caffeinated, whether you're on like some Addies, whether you're off like the lean or whatever you feel like. Whatever you know, you get the most fluid artistic output. And that's where you actually lay the bass line. Then in slightly more coherency, you lay the details. And then after that, you're like, okay, I just did a thing. Let me put it out to the world.
Yeah. One way we might be able to think of this, to simplify it, it's like a series of binary steps, a repeated iteration of content and expression. The expression at one level becomes the content for the next level. In more conventional artistic terms, we would call this ideation and execution. You have an idea and you execute it. And I think necessarily artistic ideation, what separates it from other kinds of ideation is that artistic ideation is always an act of paranoia. It's always making a jump that no one else would make conceptually. You are drawing a connection between things, between notes that nobody's come up with before, or between one concept and another. You're making a metaphor that no one's come up with before for a lyric. And the first step will always be coming up with something new. And then the step after that is finding a way to express this so that other people will get the feeling or the idea that you're trying to put out in the world. And then once you have, for instance, writing a song, it's a series of small building blocks. You come up with a riff, which is a paranoid action. You come up with a new metaphor, which is a paranoid action. And then you structure them. into something that flows, that is able to communicate what you want to communicate. And then after that, that's the new building block for structuring the whole song or structuring an album. And same could be said of marketing. You're coming up with some sort of idea, and that coming up with is a 0 to 1 leap. And then the structuring, the expression, execution is a different sort of state. And I'm not going to say necessarily these are connected to certain kinds of drugs or states of consciousness, because there's a lot of different ways you can activate paranoia. There's weed paranoia, there's caffeine paranoia.
There's, you wrote it 3 years ago and now you're finishing it, paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
You're into just entirely different human. Theseus has shipped yourself into writing the rest of the song. And yeah, it's a whole different thing that you're adding on top that you literally didn't have inside yourself before.
Is art more impactful or memorable when it reflects an altered state of consciousness? And I'd like, especially here, to take altered consciousness in a very broad sense, like we referred to earlier. This can include any sort of thing that changes how you see the world, whether that's drugs, whether that's different neurochemicals introduced through exercise, through waking up early, through staying up late.
Sitting in one room for several hours or days.
Yeah, I think this is very important to just problematize the idea of an unaltered state of consciousness. There are always things going on around you, within you, that affect your mood. I think it's a stretch to try to say there's a baseline state for anyone. There are things that it's more socially acceptable to think in this sort of way. But this is why we don't consider caffeine a drug. It affects not just your physiological state, but your psychology. It changes how you think.
I normally don't drink coffee, but when I was in Germany for the past week and a half, I drank 2 cappuccinos a day at least. Dude, I was stimulated. I was vibrating, and I loved it.
I'm not going to lie to you. I drank caffeine constantly, pretty much every day. I'd usually have either a sugar-free energy drink or a cup of coffee. Sometimes I would have each, through the day, depending on how stressful it was or how badly I needed it. And I decided last year in August, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break from it. And I thought, okay, let me just take a break for a week, 2 weeks. And I'm not going to lie, it sucked. But then I thought, okay, between a week and 2 weeks, I think it was roughly 10 days. I was like, okay, let me drink some caffeine, just to see how it affects me. And I had a full blown panic spiral. I had 200 milligrams of caffeine pretty quickly. And I could not concentrate on anything at all. My mind was flying so quickly, and it wasn't good for me. So I was like, yeah, I think I just need to stop.
Yeah, caffeine, especially caffeine from coffee as opposed to caffeine from energy drinks, is very much psychotropic. Energy drinks have additional, what's it called? It starts with a T, that suppresses the anxiety response, which is controversial because that means you can drink more caffeine without realizing how much it's changing your body. But caffeine gets me on way worse anxiety spirals than any amount of sativa, which doesn't stop me from drinking 2 pots a day.
Because sometimes that's what you want.
Because it is a type of paranoia that can be conducive to whether it's just regular work, paperwork, sending emails, or artistic creation. The way I describe it is caffeine makes me think more linearly. Normally, I'm cool with a bunch of concepts floating around, and I recognize that concepts, I say normally. When I'm sober, which is rare, I'm okay with concepts floating around being amorphous, acting on sort of probability curves with all my ideas. But caffeine will set things. There is no ambiguity when I'm really high on coffee. And so that is good for, specifically if I know what I want to do, if I've gotten past that part of ideation and I just need to put out structured things, or if I need to organize ideas, I will ruthlessly organize when I'm on caffeine. And that's helpful. If I stay up late one night, I'm in this hypnagogic, I'll be spitting out a lot of ideas. And the next morning, I want to be equally creative with how I arrange these ideas. And that's what caffeine's for.
I have the thing where I don't drink caffeine. So I used to drink a ton when I was in college of caffeine, multiple energy drinks a day, in addition to Adderall. And now I don't drink caffeine unless it's a day where I have nothing to do. Like, I don't like caffeine for productivity. I like it for just a nice, like, brighten up stimulant. When I have things I need to do, I like downers because it focuses me better. I need something to calm my mind instead of, like, re-stimulate it. I'm already too stimulated. And so that's what's weird. And I have noticed the thing you were saying about coffee versus energy drinks, because I won't have an energy drink recreationally anymore, but I will have coffee recreationally. Just, enjoy a day.
I relate to that to a pretty good degree because I take a certain amount of like vitamins and stuff like that actually help calm my brain down to a degree, because I guess it makes sense that I probably shouldn't drink very much, if any, caffeine at all, because like I'm a gym rat, as you know, but I remember I took pre-workout one time. Didn't go over well.
No.
I could not focus. I could not get started. I was like, if this is what uppers feel like, if there was any subconscious desire to do them, they are gone. Like, it is like, I didn't have any to begin with. I'm like, if there's anything I don't know about, they're long gone. Like, I had just like a regular serving of like, or a scoop or whatever of like the Steel pre-workout is what I used in particular. Not trying to call Steel out. I'm not saying their products are bad or anything. It's just,
Steel
that's just what I had.
products suck, and they can come and suck our phalluses. Unless they want to sponsor us, in which case we'll keep saying their name.
But I guess it makes sense, though, because like kind of like you, like I work better when my brain is slowed down or calmed down. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you actually take the time to study your brain and what makes you tick and become more self-aware. Because I was not a very self-aware human being until like what all happened last year. And, you know, I visited a therapist and whatnot, and that helped out pretty much with other stuff I had going on. And we went through my diet and stuff like that. And, you know, my diet is pretty clean, but, you know, the caffeine was one thing that was sticking out. And I thought, well, okay, if I've got anxiety and stuff like that, then this is potentially causing my symptoms to be worse. I probably need to go ahead and just process elimination, see if this affects it at all. And it was, for sure. And taking this stuff that, you know, was recommended to me, it has helped out a lot. And I've noticed I've been able to focus better, been able to do my tasks at work a lot better in a more organized fashion and get them done quicker, actually. And just having my brain be slowed down, just... It was great. Like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like whenever you take a shot, like, and the thing is, I knew I couldn't live like an alcoholic, just taking a shot of alcohol all the time. But like when you take a shot of alcohol, whenever your brain just kind of just, you know, whenever it just slows down a little bit, I don't know what it is, but it's like, okay, you're perfectly functional at that state, but you are altered because you do have a substance in your blood system. There is no denying.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I was like, that's not a healthy way to live, to have it in your system all the time like that, particularly alcohol. So I was like, okay, is there anything that's like decent out there that I can take that can like help with that just a little? Because that's all I need is just a little bit.
One thing at least from like back when I was in the gym nonstop, people used to be like, yeah, I get high before I go to the gym. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, what? And then I got high before I went to the gym one time, and holy shit, it was some of the best pumps I've ever gotten. Because, like, you're such in this focused state that, like, you're feeling every muscle pull, and it's not even feeling like pain. It's feeling like just stimulation when you do it. And so that started to make me, like, actually reconsider the whole thing about getting high before you go to the gym. So, like, unless you're doing cardio stuff, then it doesn't really make sense. But if you're just going for, like, straight muscular stuff, lifting dumbbells, doing pull-ups, that kind of thing, it, like, actually really is nice. I think I probably need to get into that again. I just hate getting high in the day at this point. But, like, doing that to go work out is actually wonderful because you get locked in this flow state. And just this zone of the gym is where I exist.
I never even thought about that, like people getting high before they go to the gym.
Yeah, it's a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. That's totally new to me.
Well, because people always associate like being high with being lazy. But if you get high for a specific purpose, and you know I'm smoking this right now because I'm going straight to go do my workout, and especially if you've planned your workout already, you're just following the instructions you gave yourself beforehand, and you're in a semi-euphoric state where just every experience just feels nice. whether it's this like difficult way, it's like why taking a hike while high or walking through the mountains is just nice. It's similar with working out. Like you're just invested in your own little world.
Your mileage may vary with your just personality type and the strain. Like I am very much a manic stoner. Like I smoke to do yard work. Similar to the concept of going to the gym. Every sensation is so much more meaningful.
Pulling weeds, it's just fun because you feel the roots come out and it's...
Yeah, it's no longer a mindless task. Everything becomes much more mindful because, like, weed enhances sense perception. It's like sharp pains tend to be more intense, but dull pains get softened. And so, similarly, the sensation of exercise might be better or worse depending on the kind of exercise you're doing. Know your body, know yourself, and practice whatever routines help you do things.
Yeah, it's always okay to experiment a little bit.